I had a friend who called me recently and she said, I'm in this situation where I can either stay where I'm living, toxic, slightly environment. She said, or I can move in with a friend who is moving house and I can stay there for 4 months. She's going to do the house up and therefore she wants to put the room on the market for a certain amount of money. So I either need to be earning that amount of money to pay for that room, or I'm going to have to move again in 4 months. And after much discussion, I think the question I landed on asking was, what situation makes you feel lighter? I have another friend who is currently a year into running her own therapy business. And she was talking to me about whether to take the plunge on renting a room in a more substantial way. And again, after much back and forth, we landed on the same question. What route makes you feel lighter? These situations were both risky for these women, of moving home with the potential of having to find somewhere completely new to live again within a matter of months, or having larger financial outlays with the potential that she wouldn't be recouping all of that money back. But both of them said the thing that made them feel lighter was actually the riskier option. What does risk mean? Let's look. Hey Siri, can you define the word risk?
As a noun, risk means a situation involving exposure to danger. Do you want to hear the remaining one?
No, thanks. The possibility that something unpleasant or unwelcome will happen. Go away now. Go away.
Okay.
Exposure to danger. A risky choice is one that potentially puts you in more danger. Anyway, I tell you all of these things because I feel like my entire life is a big risk at the moment. And I've just kind of had my first moment where I'm really having to make these risky decisions. I walked away from the potential of being kept on for a project because they wouldn't meet the day rate that I was putting myself out there as a freelancer as. I feel incredibly strongly that I need to advocate for what I'm worth when it comes to my job and my career. I work in an industry that is going down the toilet at the moment. Advertising is, much like the television industry, struggling hard and has been for the last couple of years. And with the advent of AI, everyone thinks that they can make an ad better than human beings, which, you know, I'm not actually discounting that some AI generated ads might be far better than what an agency has been paid to create. But I've worked really hard over the last decade to become really good at my job. And I've moved up the ranks and I've had my ups and downs. At some point we'll talk about the nervous breakdown I had a couple of years ago, because that was really fun, but not today. Anyway, I spent the last 10 years getting really good at what I do and making sure that when I show up in a job, I show up as the level that I'm advertising myself as. I have a certain level of experience now after over a decade doing what I do. And I feel like the remuneration for that should be relevant. And I think what I'm finding at the moment in a lot of job advertisements is that people are having to downgrade themselves to a rung lower or two in order to get jobs. So the idea that I would walk away from an agency that was willing to give me further days worth of work, it is a risk. I don't know what is around the corner for me when it comes to other work. The risk for me of walking away from a bit more money coming in over me feeling generally taken advantage of was not worth the emotion attached to that. And so I did make the decision to not earn the cash and walk away. It feels like a massive risk. The idea of something feeling scary does not necessarily correlate with the idea of it feeling lighter. I walked away from that agency last week with my head held high, feeling really good in the decision that I had made, slightly terrified about where the next paycheck's going to come from, and yes, it is also a bit of a risk that I am not all over LinkedIn every day looking for jobs 8 hours a day. It makes my soul sad. I am doing stuff like making bits of content and enjoying doing stuff on TikTok and planning my next D&D campaign with my friends and making sure that I've got some other stuff going on than just job searching, because I think that is really heavy on my heart right now. I think any time that you are faced with a decision where one or both of the elements you don't actually know potentially how this thing is going to go, and let's be honest, how do any of us ever know how any situation is going to pan out? Because life, if anything, is wildly unpredictable. These decisions are always a risk, regardless as to which way you go with it. And so I think you can only choose the one that feels lighter and aligns more with your morals and your sense of self and who you feel you are as a person and a human being and how you want to show up in the world. And I want to show up in a world where people are paid fairly for what it is that they do, where people don't feel taken advantage of. And interestingly, a couple of days after I had left, I got a call from the CEO, who actually had a conversation with me all about how she thought I had done the right thing and that they were re-looking at their rates and that none of that would happen again. And I really appreciated that call because it made me feel like they actually respected what I do and what I bring to the table as a person and how I show up in my professional working life. Because to me, that's been an incredibly important part of my identity for a really long time. Too much of an important part of my identity for some of my life. I've been watching a lot of people's channels recently, like Cara and Nate, and there's this new guy that I found. What's his name? I wrote him down. Nathaniel Drew. Nathaniel Drew, my God. That lad who just bought a French farmhouse a year ago and is restarting his entire life out in France. I haven't watched every episode. I don't know how all of these go. I watch people like those channels and they are constantly taking risks and pushing themselves out of their comfort zone, but all of those risks align with what they do and what they love and who they are, and I think they're incredibly inspiring. And I know that not taking a freelance job is not the same as abandoning yourself on a desert island for 3 days and only drinking water out of coconuts. I couldn't do what Cara and Nate do. But I was watching one of their videos. They were on a cruise in South Africa, like a safari cruise, where they were getting up close and personal with elephants and hippos basically every day. I'm certain it was that video where Cara just turned around and said, I can't believe this is our life. And I kind of feel like the more times I'm able to take those risks where I lean into the thing that feels a little bit more dangerous, I'll get to the point where I am saying, I can't believe this is my life. Gosh, I'm already so lucky and grateful for the life I have, but there's still more. I want more. I want the life where I turn around and go, oh my God, every day. And I feel like these little risks just push me in that direction. I'm not saying go take risks that make you financially vulnerable, but do the thing that feels lighter, even if it feels risky. That's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, I've not even addressed the fact that, sorry there was not a video last week. It was because I actually had a full-time job at the time. I was on a pitch for the last couple of weeks, and so I just did not have the energy. I know I said I would do the LA vlog, and I definitely will, but there's a lot of footage and a lot of stuff to edit. I've got no idea if any of this makes sense, but thank you for watching. and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.